This is a feedback on the Tactical class as of patch 9.0. Tactical has always been a class that is beloved by all, due to his incredible versatility and strength in the team or solo setting. The Tactical is so good at everything he does, in the hands of a very competent player he can pretty much do, well, everything. Unfortunately, the class design is definitely flawed. Let's analyze the ins and outs of the Tactical, as well as critique some of his questionable balancing. Chapter 1. Weapon and Passive Issues. The Tactical class passive allows him to reload a weapon that is currently not being actively used. For example, if I have a bolt pistol out, my bolt rifle will reload itself automatically. This class passive isn't super powerful, but does allow you to always have a loaded weapon in case you forget to manually reload. It's a very neat bonus to the class that solidifies its position as a responsive character. The Tactical has the most diverse and numerous weapons available. Brother has basically unrestricted access to the entire armory, in addition to his own unique primaries. In total, he has 7 primary weapons, 4 of which are unique, 3 secondary weapons and 2 melee weapons. In theory, the Tactical has the most options for his build crafting. He can be specialized into a medium to long range marksman, a dedicated close range bruiser, or anything in between. Yet, he also cannot truly replace the role of other classes, be it the melee powerhouse like the Assault, or the overwhelming firepower that is the Heavy. In that sense, the Tactical's abundant arsenals truly reflect the kind of flexibility the class is able to provide in any team composition. Still, I wish his sidearms and melee slot can be expanded upon more. All sidearms should be available to everyone. There's zero debate around this issue, and pistols should not be limited because of some arbitrary restriction, be it gameplay or lore. They don't define a class, neither will they allow a class to encroach onto the role of another class. As for the Tactical's melee weapons, I believe it's high time to add the power sword to the Tactical. This has been a very popular suggestion, and it's time to let us have the choice. The power sword is roughly equivalent to the chain sword in terms of effectiveness, and adding it to the Tactical will not suddenly make him that much stronger or weaker, and limiting the arsenal in such a seemingly arbitrary and nonsensical manner is just a waste. Tactical's class ability is the auspex scan. This ability shoots out a projectile that, once in contact with geometries or an enemy, will scan in a spherical area for enemies to mark. Marked enemies by default will have a 50% damage sensitivity modifier added to range and melee damage. This ability is perhaps one of the best, and possibly also the worst, in the game. Its strength is perhaps the reason why so many automatic bolt weapons feel so underwhelming to use. The auspex gives such a tremendous damage bonus, it is highly likely the reason why some weapons seem to do such pathetic damage without it. At its highest possible bonus, the auspex is capable of more than doubling your damage output. If, for example, the auto bolt rifle needed 20 bullets to kill a target, a max power auspex will be able to bring that down to less than 10. This ridiculous bonus is more than likely the reason why the damage of bolt weapons feels so underwhelming at times. In terms of its power, the auspex is second to none. In terms of balance, this thing is an absolute nightmare. I believe this is why the bolt weapons cannot be made to be lore accurate, as they will trivialize a lot of enemies in the game, especially with how auspex can be so freely used in certain situations. In any case, I cannot make any comments on the auspex beyond that it must be hell to balance around, especially with weapons that are made to resemble conventional firearms. In an ideal world, I would have lowered the auspex damage modifier significantly but raised the damage of the bolt weapons. Alternatively, I would have made it an additive factor within the damage sensitivity, so as to reduce the snowball effect, though obviously that would make the auspex significantly worse than before. Saber, you just gotta play your own game and see if this is the type of gameplay you want. The Tactical himself has a decent class passive, a cornucopia of weapon selection, and a very powerful active ability, and for these reasons, he is already a very competent class. Chapter 2. Perks. The Tactical's perks aren't without major issues and imbalances, and I do believe there is quite a strict meta with this character that I hope can be addressed in the future. We start off with the core perks. Like all classes, there are a few that are either lacking or are no-brainers, best in slot perks. In the first column, we have Balance Distribution, Plasma Boost, and Crack and Penetrator rounds. My problem with this column is that 2 out of 3 perks serve zero purpose if you choose to use certain weapons. This should never be the case. Plasma Boost should be reworked like the heavy version where when you're halfway through a magazine you receive a damage bonus. Likewise, Crack and Penetrator rounds should be reworked to work with the Plasma Incinerator and Melter Rifle in some way. This is a very common issue in Space Marine 2, admittedly. In this column, Crack and Penetrator rounds is perhaps the least impactful of the bunch. The only weapons I think this truly benefits are the auto bolt rifle and the bolt carbine. These weapons have low or zero penetration, which would mean adding one additional cleave significantly improves their crowd control ability. Only with how terrible body shot damage is with this game, bolt rifles will never be great for crowd control beyond just pushing them around, unless you have the aim of the God Emperor himself. In addition, for the other bolt rifles, it is just an overkill to have this much penetration, plus you lose out on having more damage instead. In any case, both Plasma Boost and Kraken rounds need to be reworked to offer something to all weapon loadouts. The second column we see Heightened Vigor, Relentless Pursuit, and Versatility. These perks are all great. Heightened Vigor offers the only source of poise to the tactical, while also giving him the very rare bonus of gunstrike damage. Relentless Pursuit has great synergy with all weapons and loadout. Versatility is also an interesting choice for if you are a fan of using the sidearms, especially with gunstrike reload or one with larger magazine like the Plasma or Neo Volkite. Finally, the third column is Emperor's Judgment, Steady Aim, and Emperor's Vengeance. While the first and second perk are relatively equivalent, Emperor's Vengeance is perhaps one of the most powerful perks in the game. Any perks that allow the player to disregard any form of resource management in this game will always automatically be on the verge of being overpowered. Perks like Unmatched Zeal, Emperor's Vengeance, Invigorating Icon, etc. are all in the same boat. And it is no surprise that they're also often the best in slot for the majority of players. Emperor's Vengeance was at one point the reason why the GL is incredibly overpowered. Granted, that was an unintended behavior, but even without that, to this day I imagine this is likely the most commonly picked perk for all level 25s in this column, by a long shot. Should this be nerfed now? I don't know. All I know is, if resource management was going to be such a huge part of the game's difficulty, they should have never made this a thing, similar to Invigorating Icon. I feel like perhaps they should get the Dark-type Veteran Aura treatment, where by default it provides a small ammo refund on elite kills but get a way bigger bonus with this perk selected. The team perks of the tactical are Secure Stockpile, Aligned Aim, and Transhuman Physiology. Let's start with the underpowered option. Transhuman Physiology is a dead perk. It provides bonus CHP recovery for ranged damage only. On paper it sounds fine, but ranged damage is directly tied to CHP recovery, but not inversely. Guess which perk also gives you ranged damage? Aligned Aim. In that sense, Aligned Aim also improves your CHP recovery. It completely outclasses Transhuman Physiology, which offers no additional bonus. The third team perk needs to provide more. If it improves any CHP recovery, then perhaps it'll be a very strong contender, though for other classes like the Heavy and the Vanguard, that could perhaps lead to other problems. There might be a ranged damage CHP change in the future, so we'll see how that pans out. Aligned Aim is fine. It's boring, but it does exactly what it does, no strings attached. And since it's ranged damage, it's automatically a tier better than Sniper's Headshot Damage perk. Secure Stockpile is overpowered. There, I said it. Why? Because, you guessed it, it allows the team to completely ignore another resource in the form of equipment. How this even managed to become a perk is quite honestly mind-boggling, when the same devs also realized a while ago that Invigorating Icon was game-breaking. Not only that, it literally regenerates a grenade every 60 seconds without any form of input needed from the players. A game with tactical running this perk is a totally different game from one without it. Equipment refunds were once plagued by the issues of long cooldown, high kill requirements, and also triggering when it shouldn't. And this perk is just free grenades, no caveats. Like I said before, a perk like this that regenerates permanent values like health, ammo, or equipment will always be the best in slot. Never mind the fact that you do not have to do anything to reap the benefits. Where's the risk and reward dynamic? A brutally simple fix would be to increase the cooldown time for the team. Another way would be tying in action before the refund. For example, killing Extremist refunds the equipment by 1 for one player or some such. Either way though, this perk cannot remain as it is now. Team equipment refund is possible to have in this game, just not free like it is now. Next we discuss the gear perks. First column, Vital Data, Priority Targeting, and Target Lock. Vital Data is a great perk, as any skill refund perks are. It's also super unique in that it encourages target priority and also at times skillful use of the ability. Extremist enemies also tend to be more mobile, such as in the case of Tyranids, or they often stay in the backline. So it requires some degree of proper timing, accuracy, and positioning. It's a perk that rewards your skillful auspex placement, which is great. Priority targeting traits Minoris targeting to only Majoris. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really understand the point of auspexing Minoris in the first place, so this isn't a huge loss. This perk is great though, since the increased auspex duration is a very strong effect. Target lock is useless. The only thing this perk truly aids in is crack grenade breakpoints. Theoretically, the 384 damage of the crack grenades on absolute will be elevated to 672 damage. This will allow the crack to kill every single extremist in the game. Issue is you're using the crack grenade, which is possibly one of the most inconsistent equipments in the game, because it sticks to anything that moves. And also the fact that killing an extremist that is auspex is already super easy. Bosses only receive 35% damage from explosives such as the crack and the melt-a-bombs. This means that the melt-a-bomb is only doing 247.52 damage instead of the regular 707.2. With target lock, this is elevated to a mediocre 433.16. I'm not impressed. This perk should be reworked to do something else. In practice, there is no scenario where you'd want your grenades to do more damage over longer auspex or faster refund, because the former requires a lot more resources and setup for a questionable performance gain. Our final column is close targeting, expert timing, and concentrated fire. Close targeting is obsolete, as battle focus exists. Remember, auspex is a multiplicative buff, whereas melee damage isn't. Meaning, auspex is a literal 1.5 times your damage, while melee damage isn't. Besides, I don't think 25% is even anywhere close to being impactful enough to change too many breakpoints. Rework this perk to do something else when auspex is down, like having hyper armor or something. Expert timing is okay, but I feel like the duration penalty might be a little too much. Concentrated fire is also good, and actually changes how one should use the auspex scan in a skillful way. Lastly, the signature column has Signal Jammer, Radiating Impact, and Mark for Death. Signal Jammer is garbage as it is. It's funny when it works in operation, but whenever it's not triggered by battle focus, I feel like it's just blind luck. Only one enemy will ever make reinforcement call in the group. I'm not using my auspex just to kill one guy. Oh, and it's completely useless in Siege because they don't make reinforcement calls there. A way this can be made usable would be to make it refund your skills upon a successful kill, though this still wouldn't fix the issue that it does nothing in Siege. How about enraged enemies? Don't know how that pan out though. Radiating Impact is cool, but like all perks that does this, I want to see my cooldown. And please, make it explode when I make it to the enemy, not when I press E. Even better is if I can decide when it happens. Last and certainly not the least is Mark for Death. I find this perk extremely questionable. First, the cooldown is the same as the auspex, theoretically, meaning typically it should be ready whenever your auspex is ready. With battle focus though, you can always trigger this whenever it's ready, but then the issue becomes another. You better hope you don't waste it on some Majora's goons then. Another issue is it doesn't do anything if you have a Meltar or Plasma Incinerator. Yep, another lack of interaction. Finally, I ask, what even is the point of this perk if you can pretty much delete Majora's and Extremis enemies anyway with battle focus? With block weapons, you can very easily accomplish this. Mark for Death needs to work differently to address these issues. Chapter 3 Prestige Perks. Acuity is a great perk. Kinda strange that it isn't on the sniper, especially considering that sniper only has one sidearm that can't headshot when the tactical has 3. This needs to do something else with non-headshot weapons. Skill Supplier is meh outside of grenade launcher, but at least it works for all weapons. Second Look is fine if you're afraid of missing your auspex. Spare Powers is hilariously broken in Siege, and just mediocre in Ops. That's okay though. Resilience and Fortitude are both very strong but boring. Exigency Charge is terrible. If they made it work for 30% HP though, it would probably be just okay, but Tactical has other ways to refund his skills anyway, so I don't see the point of this perk regardless. It needs to be reworked. Chapter 4 Reviews. These are some of my thoughts on the current balancing of the Tactical class. Tactical is extremely powerful, but he also has very little build diversity. It's funny how Saber had consistently given him ridiculous and even unwarranted buffs, but his build variety is still so lacking. My estimate is that most Tacticals run Emperor's Vengeance, Secure Stockpile, Battle Focus, and Radiating Impact, and that's how bad the build variety is there. Anyway, hopefully Saber's spreadsheet agree with that statement. Tactical might be good, but without those perks he is only like a quarter as good. Here's to hoping more changes come to improve his build variety.